Technical interview.
Yes.
Um, no, no. Oh.
No? Okay. Let me do a new area. So today I'm gonna be walking through technical interviews. Yeah. So in your me mm, me log in. Okay. So if you go to the interview prep section, you'll see program specific. You can all see my screen, yeah? Program specific,
Yes.
yeah, program
Yeah.
specific questions. And you have the list of questions here. Now, you need to understand what you could potentially be asked. Do you understand that if you go into an interview without knowing what kind of questions you're going to be asked, you're basically you're giving yourself a big disadvantage.
Mm,
Yeah?
yeah.
Because there's different styles of interview questions. Everyone just thinks because it's tech, everything is technical. Why is not everything technical? Why are companies trying to assess you on not just the technical skills and your technical ability?
And they want to see us if we can, manage the stuff online, like on platforms and stuff.
That's still technical.
Is that? All right. Okay.
Yeah, if you're managing the cloud platform, yes, that's technical. But there's more than just technical questions. That's what I'm asking you. There's three types of interview questions. Okay? You need to understand this regardless of what field you get in, whether it's cyber or software or cloud, anything. So, what
Uh,
is behavioral? Do you guys know what behavioral means? What does behavioral interview mean?
the behavior, like the body language or something.
Explain a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
The body language, like when you talk to someone, you behave. I mean, you stay, you know, you smile,
Yep.
you look
So,
nice. I mean, you look at the person you are talking to.
yeah. So this is all comes under your communication and your the way you approach people, right? That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
So
Mm.
why is that important? That's what I need to know. Why is it important for a company to hire you as a cloud engineer to know how you behave with people, how well you behave with people? Why do they need to know that information?
Well, I think that's important because you're gonna be part of the company, so they want someone to get along with, and they
Yes.
want to know you, you know,
Yep.
a bit better. So
And also you're working with other cloud engineers, right? Or other engineers. You'll be working
yeah,
with.
they want to see if you can work in a team or not.
Yeah,
Or
exactly. I want you to ask yourself, if you were hiring someone, let's say you were hiring me as an engineer,
yeah,
and I was the best engineer you've ever seen. I was very, very technical. I was very, very poor communicator. Like I did not know how to communicate with people. I was very like with my words. I was very impatient. Um, had bad judgment. I wasn't good under pressure, but my work was very good. Could produce very, very high quality work. Yeah?
right.
Would you hire me, yes or no? And be honest.
Yes, but I would give you maybe a different position or something.
Okay, right now companies are rejecting people that are technical just because of that.
Oh,
Because
really?
you know why? The reason is if you what's easier to train someone or build their skill set? Is it easier to train them and build their technical skills, or is it easier to build their communication skills? Which one's easier?
Uh, well, they're both not easy, but
Technic. Mm.
Technical, why? That's correct, technical. Because you could teach someone how to use the platform, you could teach them about all the services, right? You could teach them
Yeah,
programming, whatever.
technical
But
is
then,
easy,
yeah,
but behavior and communication is also communication is the key. That's what they say. But the
yeah,
communication is what makes the customer and your staff understand and
yeah,
they review each to your company or your staff a good review.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Uh,
So,
yeah,
yes. So it's very easy to train someone from a technical perspective because you can get them up to speed with the tools, the technologies, the code, all of that, yeah. But to um, someone who has like very bad communication skills is hard. I'm not saying it's not doable. Of course, you can teach them, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot more riskier because imagine you put that someone in front of a customer like you, and they're gonna maybe give your company a bad reputation, or you know they might yeah, ruin the company's reputation if you put them in front of your customers. So companies are being a little bit more cautious with people, not just on their technical, but also on their behavioral. Now, what do I mean by behavioral? Behavioral, all it is your communication, your judgment under pressure. What does judgment under pressure mean? Today, if I give you, Greg, if I say to you, you got 2 weeks to meet this deadline, I say that to you. Okay, one deadline, which is probably a project, yeah. And then a week into that project, I give you another deadline for another project. So now you're managing two projects at the same time.
right.
How would you react to that? Like, as in, how would you handle that under pressure? Because it's a lot of pressure, right?
Well, yeah,
Managing,
definitely there is gonna be a pressure. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah. The question now is they're gonna assess you, they're gonna ask you, and they want to know how you can handle that pressure because the answer you give them is going to indicate in the future how well you're going to answer that, how well you're going to be in that pressure if they were to give you something similar. Do you understand?
yeah,
So
I would choose it's having the priority first. So
exactly, that's the kind of answer that they want to hear. Now, the questions that you get for behavioral type questions is, for example, tell me about a time. Like you have to tell them a specific question, a specific scenario in the past. Why do they want to know what's in the past? Like, why is that important for
uh,
why? Because that tells them how well you're going to behave in the future.
yeah,
Okay? So, behavior question, if I said to you, for example, tell me about a time when you had to learn something quick under pressure. So, this will tell me, you know, are you eager? Are you someone who's eager to learn? Not just that. Um, did you learn, for example, under a specific time frame? So, for example, right now you're doing an 8 week program. That's a
yeah,
very short space of time, right? Some people do 6 months,
it
1 year.
is.
So this is a perfect example. And then you could talk about, for example, I gave you a situation here. You could talk about, okay, during my boot camp, I was asked to do this specific project, yeah, and we were asked to switch from you're using one technology to another mid-project, like it says here. Then you say, I was responsible for the data, da, da, da. And then you talk about the project, right?
Yeah,
Does that make sense? So behavior is
yeah.
always what happened in the past. Yeah, anything that happened in the past. The next type of question, or you can get, is something called competency. Competency. What does competency mean? Do you guys know the meaning of competency?
like someone challenging competency, like
Not really.
No, you're
convincing
competent at doing something. Like,
something, doing something, eager to do something. someone eager to do something, I think.
No, you can get a task to the end and finish it. For example, in time, or
Yes.
and you know what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. So competency just literally targets one skill, one specific skill. So behavior was like, how was your behavior toward people? And competency is just one skill. Yeah?
Yes, competent is like you are good at something. Like I don't know.
Yeah. So some people have like very good, communication skills or commercial awareness, for example. Um, yeah. So
Right.
it's testing one specific skill. So and it's how you approach that, how you approach that skill. So, for example, um, if I said, for example, it would be a specific example, but not like in the past. But it could be something that you're currently doing at the moment. So if I said, how do you approach solving a problem you've never seen or encountered before, for example?
Well, you assess it and then you're trying to take a decision.
Yeah. But can you elaborate a little bit more? You assess it. How do you assess it? What does assess mean?
You assess the situation. You see, for example, yeah, what's the risk? What the priority? What needs to be done first? What needs to be done a bit later? Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, just take a decision. What needs to be done like now,
Yes.
and focus on the thing which it's needed to be done now.
That's the point. So, do you see how you
Yeah, you
very
experience.
specifically,
The
yeah,
experience for what you are solving makes easier to know and to
yeah,
get quicker, like to where the problem is.
yeah. So, the point that I'm gonna make is that you have to just make your answer not vague. You have to make your answer very specific. Right now, you said, Greg, um, you said that I will assess the problem. That's not enough for an answer. As you can see here, you can't say stuff like I just researched it or I just, looked it up. That's not enough. You have to actually break down how you,
All right, step by
yeah,
step, like.
step by step. But that's the only way you can show that you actually are good with that skill, yeah? Because if
All
you
right,
said
yeah.
to me, I'll just Google it or I just do research,
Well,
then
that's not enough. Yeah, it
yeah,
means that you don't know. Yeah,
then later on you're gonna approach every problem like that. Whether it's
yeah.
easy or hard, you're gonna approach the same way, which is not good. So this is kind of like the answers that you should give. Yeah?
All right, yeah, got it.
Yes. Mm, So this is an example of a bad answer. So don't say I will try different things until something works. That's not a good answer, usually.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah? So, trial and error. Trial and error is correct. You are doing trial and error. Sometimes you do trial and error, but it's not the first point. It's not the first thing that you always do. Like with
Yeah,
trial
the
and
trial and
error.
error, I think, is when you really like run out of options and
Yes.
nobody knows what to do already.
Yeah, you have to have a more calculated approach in the beginning. You have to like
Yeah,
actually to figure
implement
out,
your yeah,
yeah,
implement.
and have a step by step. So competency, again, just to, what's the difference then? Competency and behavior, because they kind of in the past. So the kind of is assessing how you approach certain situations. But behavior just literally tests your character, like how you are as a person. Yeah? Competency tests the actual evidence. So if you say to me, Greg, I'm
Your
good at
skill, your skill.
yeah, if you say to me, I'm good at solving
Behavior
problems.
is attitude, and
Yes.
And competence is skill, how skillful you are, how
Yes,
you
but
know what you're doing.
it's skillful, but with evidence. You can't just say I have the skill, but not
Yeah,
have
yeah. In action,
evidence.
in action.
Yeah, you have to actually say what the actual action is, or how do you prove it? Because anyone can say, "Oh, I'm a very good problem solver. I'm a very good communicator. Um, I'm very good at team working." But then, how do you actually solve it? You need to give me a good example. The mistake, the number one mistake I see in interviews, a lot of students, they just don't go, they don't give enough detail. And you know what the interviewer will do? They'll just ask you another question, follow-up question. Like for example, right now, earlier you said, I will assess the problem, right? To ask you, what does assess mean? What's the definition of your assess? You know? Because everyone has a different way of, assessing problems. What's your one? And then once you give me that detailed answer, then I can say, okay, now he knows how to actually break down a problem into smaller problems, yeah? So you should really you know, carefully look at the question. So that's competency. And then the last one is technical. Technical, everyone knows what that means, yeah? So there's three types of technical questions in cloud. Yeah, I'll just explain it here. So you need to be careful what type of question you'll be asked in the interview, okay? So the first type of technical question is called conceptual. You know what this means? Anyone know what this means?
Conceptual is the what, for example, like what cloud means, or
Yes.
like in
So
general.
yeah, it's just testing your vocabulary and your knowledge, like your theory knowledge. Literally, it means like do you know the concepts? So if
Yeah,
I said to you, what's a firewall? And if I said to you, what does SSH, what's the purpose of
yeah, you
SSH?
need to know the definitions.
It's
Yeah,
just the definitions, vocabulary, depth of knowledge. Yeah. The second type of interview question is scenario based. Yeah. So scenario mm, based questions. Yeah. So you need to understand the process of things and your judgment of it. So,
uh,
for example, um, if I said to you, I can't SSH into your EC2. Walk me through how I would debug this. This is a scenario, right? The scenario
yeah,
is I can't SSH into EC2, right? How would you debug this? That's the scenario. So you have to basically go through a process of how to debug this. First, you'll say, I'll go to the console, check if the EC2 is actually the instance is actually turned on. If it's turned on, then I will check. I will SSH in. I'll try to open it through the public IP address and then see if I can access it. Then I'll go to the URL, check if the HTTP prefix is at the beginning, etc. Do you see? I'm giving you the
taking
process
what
of
security
yeah,
group, what, yeah,
yeah. Just try to. There's no structure to it. You don't need to structure, but you kind of need to tell me
the
overall.
basic thing, like what you would do,
Yeah,
like
what's the first thing that comes to because what would that tell me if I was to ask you a scenario? What would that tell me if you gave a good or bad scenario?
so you know how to manage it, like you manage
Yes,
the,
you don't need to be told to do it, yeah? You're not
yeah,
gonna
so
you're because at the end of the day you're an engineer, your whole purpose is to solve problems. If someone comes and says to you and they want to hire you as an engineer, the least thing that they expect is for you to be a bad problem solver. You know, that's the least thing. You should be like the best problem solver. And then, um, so give me a scenario type question. Gives me an idea whether you understand the basics of troubleshooting or debugging. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not gonna
troubleshoot.
always, it's not always gonna be the correct way of doing it. I'm not saying like every way is correct debugging wise. There's different ways to debug. Not everyone thinks the same way immediately. It depends
Yeah,
on the level of experience and knowledge. Like for example, you guys are going through the labs at the moment. You're going through them step by step, right? It might be a little bit harder for you to debug certain things, which is why you need someone a little bit more experienced to help, right? So something
yeah,
that might take you an hour, 1 hour would take an experienced engineer maybe 10 minutes. The only reason why is not because they're smarter than you or anything like that, is because they've troubleshooted and they've gone through that scenario basically a million times. You understand?
yeah, yeah,
They've
yeah.
seen
That's
that bug before. Usually it's because they've just seen it before. Once your eyes see something later on, it will come back to you and it will be just basically muscle memory. So
yeah,
an interviewer will ask you scenario just to see what's your judgment. And obviously with debugging, there's like um there's like an easy debugging step and there's a hard debugging step. What they're looking for is where do you start? Do you start with like what's the easy things to check first? For example, that SSH issue that I talked about, SSH into the EC2. Okay, I just first need to know is the instance on or not? That's it. Yeah?
yeah,
You don't do
yeah,
anything else. Check if the instance is on. Then because that's the easiest thing to check, right? Then you slowly go up and like it gets more and more difficult. As you go up, you'll probably find the problem, as you continue to debug. So that's another thing you need to remember. A lot of people, when they answer these scenario type questions, they get a little bit confused and they try to overcomplicate troubleshooting or debugging. You never ever do that, yeah?
right.
Like I said, try to go for the basic way first um, and then troubleshoot. It will get a lot more complicated anyway if the problem is big. Try to start with the basic. Um, one other thing just before I move on is you are not prevented from asking questions if you get stuck. So a lot of engineers have this idea that, you know, I have to fix this problem. Even I had it at one point in my early days. I used to think, you know what, I have to fix this problem. If I get help, it's a bad reflection on me. Sometimes you just need another pair of eyes, someone to, I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes when you just stare at something and you just don't see it. You don't see the problem in front of you. Something could be
Yeah,
very
is that like too experienced?
No, it's not even about experience, but sometimes even experienced people, they because they see the problem in front of them and they their whole focus is trying to fix the problem. Maybe they missed on a
Miss
small,
out on something
yeah,
else.
on a small detail that someone
Yeah,
else from the outside, if they see it, they're like, "Oh, did you forget to do this?" And then they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize." There's one of those things that you need sometimes another pair of eyes, or meaning another someone to actually review that code with
yeah, there
you.
might be a issue where you expect the least. So
Exactly, yeah. So you might not be looking at the right place, and then
yeah,
someone else comes and they see it because they have a fresh perspective, right? And
you
they
might
see
go
it
too deeper in all that thing, but the problem is actually on the top,
simple.
the simple
Yeah,
one.
and that's the point I made earlier. A lot of students they try to overcomplicate because they want to impress. I get it. You want to impress the interviewer. You want
Yeah,
to make sure you give the best answer, but it's everything doesn't have to be like always complicated, you know?
yeah,
Sometimes the problem is actually simpler than you think. So overcomplicating it definitely, gives you a bad mark in the eyes of the interviewer, and it's just not necessary. Okay, the third point is system design.
The last one is that.
Yeah, this is the last one. So this is system design. This is more like the hands-on practical, like, so the first two is more like theory.
Will we do a interview after we finish all the labs, like mock test interview, like
You're doing an interview right now, this week. You're going to do an interview every week. One interview question. It will be a question based on the
you
previous
know,
week.
when for example we do 6 labs, for example. For me, I haven't done first one even, but like it makes sense when you do how you learn and what you see and what you practice. It makes sense, I think. But like no problem, it's okay if it's like that. It makes more knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, makes more knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, so you will get an interview question, but it will be based on what you finish. So you have to, of course, finish the lab first and then get it reviewed, get it marked, and then you do the question. So the hands-on system design, because you're not doing a lot of coding, right? Especially in cloud, you'll be designing full cloud architecture infrastructure, basically. So I might ask you, for example, design simple architecture that would allow me to deploy an EC2 instance. And do you see the diagram that I drew on the previous call? Remember? So, for example, it would be something like this. Remember, Greg? You remember on
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Tuesday? So you might get asked, for example, design, and then you'll say, "Okay, I can design this. I will create a VPC, and that VPC will have two availability zones, each one having public and private. Yeah, and there
This
will
is the
be a
first session, is it? This one.
Yes, this was the session that we had on Tuesday. So you will say there was a NAT. I will place a NAT, a gateway in between the public and private subnets, and then I'll also. Do you understand? And you will draw it out. This is what the system
Yeah,
design
yeah. But
is.
I think in this scenario here, we can also start with the first thing. We can start with the region and then the VPC.
Yes, region. Yes, correct. Yeah. So you need to know the region. So do you understand? Like that's what system design is. You basically like what they're trying to see is they're trying to see if you can like architect something, like create something from nothing rather than just like memorize. Because the first two, you can get away with it by just memorizing, memorizing the definitions and stuff like that. And just if you get asked it, you could just, say it. But the last one is the one that really trips a lot of people up. Why? Because memorizing is not going to help you. You'll get a random question, design this system or, you know, build this. You have to just on the spot come up with a whole architecture, right?
They're gonna ask a specific system to design.
Yes, yes. And so
That
they might say, um, for example, how would you build a cloud infrastructure for example, Facebook or something? Yeah. So you need to understand how the application is maintained or works. So you'll say, for example, something like Facebook at the moment is in multiple countries or zones. Can you mute yourself, Mohammed, please? So you'll say because Facebook is global, I need to consider multiple data centers, basically multiple availability zones across Europe, America, whatever continent. And then you go down the level, yeah? So you create multiple VPC, you create a VPC with multiple availability zones, and then you talk about security, you talk about um, the security groups, how you would connect to the private subnets, what's the safest way to connect to the private subnet, etc. Yeah, and you just build it out. They can either get you to explain it, or they might say to you draw it out. So sometimes I've seen like you might be given a whiteboard and they might say, okay, draw out the. So you just draw it out. Yeah. So there's no framework here. Yeah, the framework is literally there's no framework here, but you can create your own framework. What I mean by that is you can create your own structure. But you have to make sure you don't like memorize in system design because it's you can easily notice it. So here's the pattern for cloud and DevOps, yeah? So here's the pattern, yeah? So first you'll get there's rounds of interviews. So you have rounds of interviews. So the first round is a recruiter round, yeah? So recruiter usually will ask you, for example, behavioral questions. They won't ask you anything too much. Yeah, they're nothing
There's
technical. The reason
few
why is because
stages,
sorry?
few stages interview. Yeah.
Yeah. These are the stages, yeah. So the recruiter will ask you some behavioral because a recruiter is not a technical person, right? They're not going to ask you anything technical. They just ask you something like small behavioral question. Then you have the hiring manager, possibly hiring manager, or we can have like, someone who's already in the team. It's not always the hiring manager. So the hiring manager will ask a mix of behavioral or competency or technical. It can be any of those, yeah? It could be any of those three options. Yeah, they can pick any of those three options. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Understand it.
Then the third, yeah, go on. What did you say? No?
No, 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 I said I understand it.
Okay. And then the third stage is technical screening. So what does technical screening mean? This basically means technical interview. So
Want to see
that
in practice.
yeah, so that's just purely technical, no behavioral. And you might have a technical online and on site. Because you know why? A lot of companies they get a bit skeptical with like having online technical interviews. Why? Because a lot of people can cheat and look up information online. So they have one online. Sometimes they have one online and then one on site, or they might have just one on site, meaning in person. When you come in person, it's very hard to, get away with that kind of stuff like cheating and looking up information. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that makes sense. So you can have any of those system design, scenario, conceptual stuff, but it might be online. I've seen always there's a mix, like some online, some in person. Yeah. And then there'll be a lot more rounds, but then it depends on the company. From company to company, it's different. Some might have two rounds, some might have four, five, six. Also, it depends on your experience as well.
All these questions they are happening in this on the same day. Oh,
That's another thing I was gonna. So imagine you have, multiple rounds. Obviously, it's not just one interview. You have multiple, at least two. But then the issue now is the final round will be a mix of everything. Yeah. So some companies don't have final round interviews. Some companies might have like two technical interviews, one behavioral, and then that's it. They give you the offer or they reject you. Some might give you like four or five stages, and then they say you have one final round, and that day will be a full day from 9 a.m. to 5 or something, and you will have a mix of everything, yeah? And you'll be seeing different people. The reason why is because they want to see if you can handle the pressure first of answering all these types of questions, and they want to assess if everything before that was true. Like, as in, if you passed all the other interviews, yeah,
you're
you sh
testing
you should pass this one. But if you fail the final one, that means you probably got
cheated or
lucky,
something.
yeah, cheated or something like that. So they just want to like do like one final check. Literally, that's what they want to do. That's all it is. One final check. Is this person really good enough for this role or not? That's all they're asking. Now, in terms of the rounds, I cannot tell you how many rounds. It's not a fixed number. Some companies might have 2 rounds, some might have four, some might have five. But the most I've seen is 5 rounds of interviews, and it's like across maybe 2 months. Those kind of roles are like very, very technical roles. They're very like mm, yeah, they're very technical roles. The ones that are like less technical, they might have less. And also it depends on the size of the company. So the ones companies like, Facebook, Google, Amazon, these tend to have more rounds of interviews because they have so much applications. They need to filter. Yeah, they need to have more stages to filter unqualified people out, right?
It was the best. Yeah.
Yeah, the smaller size companies or medium-sized companies, they'll have less rounds because number one, they don't have the budget or time or yeah, budget and time to have that many rounds. They'd rather just hire someone, but they might make a mistake in hiring the wrong person, which you know you might think, oh, why would you not just do more rounds and better to be safe than sorry later? Because if they hire the wrong person, then it's going to cost them. They're going to have to go and look for another person and rehire them. And do you get it? It's like another
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
process. So you will come across a lot of applications where you'll have a few stages. Why in the job tracker, which you'll later on when get to it. Um, yeah, it'll be easy for you to know what stage you're in when you apply to the specific job. Yeah, so you'll apply to you'll know you don't need to remember like these ones have responded and that's it. These ones have not. Whoever's not responded, if you've applied, if you haven't applied, etc. Yeah. So you'll have that information. Does that make sense? Um,
Yeah, 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 sure, yeah.
yeah. So I think I went through
Think of
everything. Um, can you mute yourself? Yeah. So okay. So here's what I will do. I will ask a question now. I just want to
based
see
on
briefly
what
how.
we've learned.
Yeah. No, no. I want to ask an interview question.
Yeah,
Um, I'll ask it to you, Greg, first.
all right.
Okay. Okay. So the question is, what is a security group?
Security group is it's like a guard. It's like that. It's like a entrance door to a house. And if you are not on the list, you are not allowed in. So it's basically checking the IPs. If they are on the list, they allow them in. And if they are not allowed. They are rejected. So they are protecting the VPC, the entrance into the VPC.
Okay. That's a good answer, but I have a bit of a feedback for you. Okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the feedback is the first one is the way you explained it to me. So you explained it as if it's a good explanation, but you didn't explain it in an interview style. You explained it to me in a normal like
All right.
I want to teach you. So you said it's like a it's like a wall or something or what did you say?
Like a door.
A
Uh,
door, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you need to use so this one thing. This is a trick I want to um, teach you. So interviewers, 9 times out of 10, have keywords in their mind that they're looking to hear, or they're
All
waiting
right.
to hear. So when I asked, I have a keyword that I had in my mind that I wanted to hear when I asked that. When you said when I said what is a security group, I wanted you to say something about firewall. That's all I
Oh,
wanted to hear. Because that's literally what a security group is, right?
yeah.
Firewall. Firewall that's attached to a EC2 instance. Yeah? Does
All
that make
right.
sense? And then
Yeah, yeah.
also another thing I wanted to hear was port numbers and protocols. Yeah? Why? Because a security group, remember we discussed this, security group checks the port number, checks whatever traffic is coming through, which is the IP address. So it controls the inbound and outbound traffic by port number and IP address. Yeah,
So it's checking like who goes where, like to what port.
exactly, exactly. Who is allowed access to which port number? So if I've allowed AT and 443, those port numbers to be open to the public, to the internet, it means any traffic, any IP address that comes through those port numbers are allowed in, right? But for example, for a database port number, 5432, then those IP addresses are blocked or they're not able to access that specific port number. So it's you're saying it like that. So
All
does
right.
that make sense? So you need
And two is SSH server,
yes, SH, yeah. Yeah. So
and
do you
and it's
understand?
also blocked.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you understand that you need to specifically use keywords?
Keywords, yeah, that is
Yeah.
related. Yeah.
So another thing, if you want to give yourself a little bit more time to think about a question, if you get asked a question, um, repeat the question back to them. So, for example, if they say, "What is this?" Actually, no. There's specific types of questions that should be repeated and should not be repeated. What is a security group isn't something that to be like, you don't need to clarify, what they meant by that or what I meant by that. It's literally straightforward definition. What is a security group? Yeah. But
You just start talking, like explain like the security group is a firewall at EC2
exactly.
instance.
Yeah. So, for example, another question I could ask is, what is the difference between public and a private subnet? Mohammed, the question is for you.
Uh, Public is subnet, the IP address that's uh, seen and accessed by everyone uh, on the internet. But the private is a private subnet which is not seen or allowed to access by anyone.
Okay, good answer. So, public subnet, I would be more specific and say public subnet has a route to the internet. That's all you have to say. Allows traffic to come from the internet.
Traffic, yeah.
Private subnet doesn't have a route to the internet. So there's no traffic that's coming from the internet to the private subnet, right?
Okay.
That's it. That's your answer. Yeah? So one has a route to the internet, meaning accessible by the internet, one doesn't. Yeah? And
Mm.
if you watch the previous video, you will see that there's a way to get through. Remember, Greg, that we
Tuesday, I
mentioned?
was not there Tuesday.
All right.
We only have three videos.
Yes,
Last one was the
that
first.
will be uploaded. That will be uploaded at the end of this week. So if you watch that, we talked about NAT gateways, yeah? NAT gateway is basically because we can't access the private subnet. How do I then, if I'm a developer, how do I access the database if I wanted to access the private subnet? You need to use something called a NAT gateway, yeah? And then
Okay.
that's how you'll be able to access. So yeah, so those questions are more conceptual questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a question that's a scenario based, yeah? So I want you guys to focus on the labs in week one. Look at the step by step. I'm gonna ask you a scenario where I will give a scenario of a problem, and then you're gonna have to give me a way to tell me how to debug it or troubleshoot it. Okay?